If you wish to start group PvPing at a competitive level, these are some essential things you should know about. While I understand it's a Star Wars game, you think you should be able to play Jedi. You'll likely not get invited to a PvP group if you play Jedi, or Combat Entertainer, or Combat Trader, or even Beastmaster. Those professions have no real group benefit, and with everybody often fighting at a 64-meter range, you won't be as much help as other professions, and other professions will outshine you in every aspect. First thing is everyone should be in voice for easy, quick communication. Even if you don't have a microphone, you can still be in the Discord to listen. There is an Imperial PvP Discord and a Rebel PvP Discord that everyone on each faction should be in, so you can get in voice to know what's going on. You should definitely make this a habit. Every time you begin to PvP, you hop in voice, as coordination wins fights. Second thing is the ideal group composition. You'll hear people trying to obtain the ideal group comp in voice, trading players around between groups to achieve this, and there is a purpose for all of it. I'm also going to explain the purpose of this group comp and their main focuses as an overview, but not every ability they have. In a group, you can have 8 players, of course, so you'd want 2 medics, 2 GA officers, 1 dire bounty hunter, 1 rogue smuggler, and the last 2 spots are negotiable DPS, so it could be a ranged spy for spy buffs, or 2 commandos for AoE DPS. Just depends on who shows up and who you have around you. The purpose for having 2 medics in your group is to be able to alternate the spray AoE heals, having 2 stasis others for incoming bounty hunters or commandos running on your team with standfast up. If one medic happens to go down, the other medic can get them back up to keep going, whereas if you only had 1 medic in your group, they could go down and your team is likely dead soon. Just multiple drags and revives being able to go out. Also with 2 medics instead of 1 medic can run the FR or First Responders 5-piece for extra healing, while the second medic can run the Doom 5-piece for debuffing people and doing damage as well as healing. And because of that, it's also recommended that every medic has both 5 pieces, FR and Doom, so that way, you can always swap depending on what each medic wants to do on that day. It's also easier for 2 medics to keep the entire group debuff and dot free by purging off than it would be if you only had 1 medic. The purpose of 2 GA officers is that each officer can proc the inspiration buff with their max ranked abilities with the GA set to give action to the group repeatedly. So each officer can have the chance to give your group action, and if one officer is unable to do so, as it is possible to be unlucky and not proc action for a bit, the other officer can be proccing action. 2 officers can alternate rally points to give your group a buff throughout the fight, and 2 officers, most importantly, can keep a 100% uptime of scatter. Before the fight even starts, the officers should have been in voice together. That's another huge reason why voice is important. Both officers should be in voice. They should have said who's doing first and second scatter. So when the fight starts, the officer doing the first scatter can hit theirs, and after their scatter has fallen off, the second officer can hit their scatter and alternate and keep scatter up 100% of the time. Officers have 2 runs, charge and scatter, but when you're in the group with 2 officers, charge should not be used unless it's to fill a gap or the other officer dies with their scatter up. By the way, if the officer with their scatter up dies, they keep it, but the entire group loses it. So if it's your scatter, you should be protecting it. But you don't use charge because charge only has resist to snares, but scatter resists snares and roots. And without a scatter, your group could be rooted by an enemy smuggler, which could leave your group open to getting stuck and wiped. And so another good reason to have 2 officers in a group and in voice communicating is if, let's say, a dire BH gets the enemy team caught in dire root traps, 2 officers can go in with all their bombs and superior firepower at the same time, or SFP, which SFP increases their AoE damage and crit chance by a lot. If they go do that at the same time on an enemy group that's in traps, as a surefire way to wipe the enemy team. Next, you want to have 1 dire bounty hunter in your group. The purpose to that is it allows them to have runs from the officers, of course, so they don't get hindered by regular snares and roots when going in to get dire traps. And a dire BH, especially one in voice communicating their traps, is what is most likely to lead to the enemy team getting wiped. A BH with the Dire Fate Entrapment 5-piece has a chance to get dire roots with their traps, so if they're smart and they make sneaky plays, they can maneuver their way to the enemy team and hopefully get a good chunk of them caught in dire root traps, and your team can capitalize on their inability to move with every AoE you have. Dire BH can also do single target dire snares to slow down specific people, which could lead to good assist targets. Along with Armor Break, Dread Strike, Fumble, some pretty helpful debuffs and other abilities as well. Next is Smuggler. A A smuggler with the Rogue 5-piece heroic jewelry set is able to single target Dire Snare with concussion shot, and the Dire Snare will land even through a bounty hunter's prescience. A smuggler has the ability to AoE root most of an entire team with Nerf Herder and False Hope. They also have a metric fuck ton of AoE damage potential. They can reduce a lot of someone's damage potential with the single target debuff called Spot a Sucker. So for example, an officer is coming to SFP bomb your group. The smuggler just has to use Spot a Sucker on them and can protect all of you. Smuggler can use the ability Camouflage Ally to cloak specific people, mostly used to put their group's dire BH in stealth so they can get the enemy team in dire traps easier. Another reason for everyone to be in voice is to communicate that you're putting the dire BH in stealth and tell him to get ready. And because of all this, Smuggler is the preferred choice to be the assist caller or shot caller. The other two spots in the group is negotiable DPS. So some like to have a spy for their group buffs to increase the group's damage potential, especially considering the fact that officers paint target and spies crit buffs are the only place you can get crit damage increase, which can be very beneficial against an assist target. Some like to just go with two commandos for their AoE damage to aid in group wipes if the BH gets them dired. Either route can work. So once you have your group composition set up and you're hopefully all in voice, you have to set up your assist. This is a non-looping macro that you should set a keybind to, as you'll be hitting it constantly. Most choose either the middle mouse button or their spacebar. So for example, if I'm on my smuggler and I'm the shot caller or assist caller, you'll press escape, go to commands, go to the macro tab, edit your assist macro, and do /assist vulture semicolon, and that's it. When I'm in voice calling targets, you can hit your assist macro keybind and target what I'm targeting, so that way everyone can be attacking the same target in immediate succession hopefully, and global people one at a time. Every profession has different jobs they should be doing during a fight, so learn yours. Hopefully we can have more competitive group PvP out there. And don't be the Jedi Master that shows up with fizz pudding food expecting to get into a group. Good luck.